Welcome back. So in this lesson, we're going to try to create some toolpaths, which we call CNC programming or CAM. So a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. So first thing is when you guys open the Mastercam for first time, you might notice it depends on how your settings are. If you look at the screen on the right lower corner, it says metric, right? We can actually switch it, and we should switch it to inches because the part we drawn, the hammer, is in inches. But let's see what will happen if by accident or by mistake you open your inches file in metric system. So I'm gonna just go ahead, file, open, and yeah, you'll find your file, and there it is. Software translates or convert your file automatically into metric. So let's see if I go ahead, if I try to go in analyze and try to analyze this entity here, that edge. You see it shows me the length of that edge here is 76.683, which translates to roughly close to 3 inches. And that sounds correct because our hammer, the total length is 5 inches. So that's about right. So you see, it's already actually, you know, scaled it to metric already. Okay. So, but we should be working in inches. So how are we gonna go there? That's what I wanted to show you guys here. So we go. What we do is we go to File, uh, Configuration, and on this screen, you're gonna click. So one thing you want to make sure that's analyze measurements. We change it to inches, as well as the system here below here says startup in metric. So we're gonna just explore that and switch to inches. Say okay, and say all right. Right. So now it's saying scale current part to inches. Say yes. If you say no, then something drastically wrong gonna happen. So we're gonna say, well, what it would do if I say no, your part will be still metric. So let's say if it is 71 millimeter long, it was showing earlier, or 76 millimeter, now it will show 76 inches. So that will be, humongously big hammer. So yeah, we must convert it to inches. So I would say yes. So you see it translates to inches. I would just right click and say fit. And yeah, sometimes that happens from any of the actions you do on the screen, the color would change. So what you do is in your file tab, while we are in file tab, there is a clear, this here clear color button. So you press that and it would bring it to the original color. All right, so now you can see in the lower right corner, it's showing the system is in inches now, and we can just verify it by analyzing that entity again. I can check how that edge is showing. So as you see, it's showing that edge is 3 inches long, or 3.01, right? So yeah, we just wanted to make sure before we go ahead that our part, uh, the scale is correct and we are in the correct system. Okay, a couple more other things. We go to view here, uh, view, and make sure the axes are shown. So yeah, just press show axis, and I'm gonna just go back to isometric view. Next step, we're gonna change the origin of the part to from right now it is on the front lower left corner. We're gonna change it to the upper back left corner, so this corner here. Okay, to do that, first let's change our construction plane to 2D here, and then we'll change our construction height. So clicking on the Z, and then we're gonna check, just click on one of the entities on the top here. So any point there. Now as you see, it's updated, so now the height is showing plus 1.125. Okay, now just change the view to top view. So basically I want to create a point uh, for which we're gonna use it to translate. Okay, so on the top view, I'm gonna just go to wireframe screen here and create a point. And the point we're going to create right here at the intersection. So for that, I'll just click button I on my keyboard for intersection, and then I'll just pick that edge and this edge, and now you can see the software has created the point on that intersection there. I will say okay. Now go back to isometric view, and now we can see there is a point on that corner. Okay, so we're going to use that point basically for translating the origin to that corner. Okay, now to change the origin, we're going to go to transform, and I'll use the dynamic option and saying, we need to select the entities we wanted to transform or move. So I'll pick the solid, and we should pick that point as well, because that point we just created is a separate entity. So I will select that as well, and then say end selection. And now there's this 2D origin sign there. We should have it 3D. So what I would do, we would just go and click on 3D construction plane. So you see now we have all three axes. So we're gonna just dock that on that point we just created. So just click there. Once it's clicked, make sure we just zoom it out so that we can see this, our old origin. So now I'm gonna just click on that little sphere at the intersection point. You see that there highlighted? So just click on that, and then by keeping the right click, pressed, I'll just drag it and then click it on that our origin position. Okay, so it basically moved the whole model to that point. I say okay, and it's done. Now let's verify it. Okay, first let's clear the colors. You see, whenever we do something on the screen, sometimes the color will change. So you go to home screen here, and there's a button called clear color. Okay, that will bring our original color back. Now let's go to the top view, and let's do fit. There. And now if I can zoom it in there, and we wanted to make sure that our origin is perfectly aligned with the intersection point. Okay, and also if I go back to isometric, and again, once again, if I click on Z this time, oh yeah, let's change that 3D construction view, construction plane to 2D. And now if I wanted to measure or you see where my top face is, I will click on Z and click one of the points on the top face here. And our Z here should read 0. If we are seeing some other numbers, that means our Z face is not translated properly. Right. So at this point, our XY is translated to that corner, to the back top corner, and our Z is also, have been uh, established at the top face. Okay, at this point, we should save our work, and then continue. All right, let's start to create some toolpaths now. So as a first step, we're going to go in machine and then select the machine we're going to use to uh, machine this part, right? So we will be doing it on the milling machine. So I'll select mill and we will just pick a default milling machine from there. Okay. As you see, our toolpath manager is updated. Now we're going to go into the toolpath creation. So the first toolpath we're going to try is facing. Basically, we wanted to clean the top face. So all our toolpaths are here, all our two-dimensional toolpath or 2D paths. If we explore this here, you can see all the paths here. So right now we're going to just try that facing path. Okay. Once we click that, now it's asking us some of the options. So from the selection, we're going to just pick the solid model selection. It's going to ask us which solid you wanted to face. So I'll just click here. That's the face. And we would just say OK. All right. It brings up to our toolpath page where we're going to enter some information. So on the left window here, basically we would just fill up some of the information there to create our toolpath. So it is going to go basically from top to bottom, and then we'll stop somewhere in between to finish our toolpath. So as you see, the first one is highlighted toolpath type, which we already selected that we are facing here. And then the next is the tool. We're going to select our tool, the tool we wanted to use for it. I would go into select library tool, and here is the library. Make sure we are in the inch tool library. So from here we're gonna pick a face mill. I can actually go into the filter and I can say that select none but the face mill. So now the library would show only the face mills. Here we are. So here we're gonna actually use 3-inch face mills. So I'll just pick that tool, say OK. The tool is here. Now on these yellow tabs here, it's showing us all the parameters for that cutter for that tool. RPM, it's gonna be running at 1286 RPM, surface speed, feed rate, plunge rate, all that more technical details. So we are not gonna go into that at this moment. I will just in the comment I would just write down this is our top face. Okay. So for now, we'll just leave everything as it is and we will move forward. The only thing we might want to change is the tool number, because that's how the tool number will show in the in your machine carousel. So I can change that to tool number 1, basically. Everything else should change by itself. Okay, let's go ahead. The holder part, we'll skip that for now. It's gonna go to cutting parameter. From the style, we're gonna select one pass. So what that means is the tool is gonna go just create one pass. Okay, we can play with these a little bit later, but approach distance is basically how far the tool is gonna land from the workpiece. So by default, it is set to 1.5, which is okay. So we will just leave it as it is. Leave that. Um, the angle, we'll leave it at 0. This stock to leave on the floor, I will just change it to 0 because we wanted to actually go to 0. We don't want to leave any stock. Okay, depth cuts we will not use for now. Linking parameters, we would select. So I would just put the clearance at 2 inches, a retract to quarter inch, feed plane, let's just change it to 0.1, and top of the stock, we can leave that to 0 for now. Okay, and yeah, rest of the things we are not going to change for now. We'll just leave it as it is and say okay. All right, so here is the toolpath. Now, while the toolpath is right here, I can go here, we say backplot. When we go to backplot, you would sort of see the tool, and we can go step by step, or we can just play it as a tape there. As you can see, it's if we wanted to see from the front view, let's move it back here. There, step. It's gonna be going down and 0, and then go to the other side. Now, as you noticed, we can polish it a little bit that it's landing too far from the workpiece. So how are we going to change that? Okay, let's put back to the isometric view. So if you wanted to bring your tool closer to the workpiece for your starting point, we would go back to parameters here, and cutting parameters. So rather than having 50% approach distance and exit distance, we can just reduce it to 40%, let's say. Okay, and then we just say regenerate and check our backplot again. See, now it's landing a little bit closer. All right, so that's our facing toolpath. If you wanted to change any of the information in your toolbox, in your toolpath, as I have just shown you one example, that by going into the parameter, we can change things in there. We can also change geometry and other information from here. All right, let's practice that toolpath. Okay, next we're gonna machine the shape around using the contour toolpath. Before we get there, let's just put this toolpath, the facing toolpath, what we just created, let's put it to sleep. So how you do that is that you make sure it's checked, and then we just press this display button. So that way now it's not showing it on the screen, but the toolpath is still there. Now to create the contour toolpath, we'll go here in contour. You will see this process is going to be somewhat similar to what we already did. Uh, some of the information might be and will be different, and so we will just go through whatever is new there. Okay, so again, selecting the geometry. This time we're gonna use this edges option, the very first option here. Now we're gonna pick that edge which we wanted to machine. To do that, I will just put it to the top view here and zoom it in. So you see, we wanted to go clockwise direction. So that's the uh, technical side of it. So you want to make sure when I'm checking this geometry here, edge, see how it picked up the edge, and look at the direction of the green arrow. That's how it should be. Okay, let's see if I click somewhere here around close to the other end of the entity, you would see, now see my green arrow is going downward, but is going to be like a clockwise direction. So we don't want to do that. That will create us, that's gonna actually run the tool, our tool, on the opposite side. So again, I'll just deselect that unselect it, and then do it again. So the trick is we're gonna click closer to this end so that the arrow goes upward, right? So that's how you're gonna check it. Once done, and yeah, the other thing, make sure we are picking the outermost, uh, you know, geometry and the contours. You don't want to, by mistake, you don't want to pick the chamfer geometry. Once done, we'll say OK here. And again, similar process, we're going to go from upside down. So first toolpath we already selected, we are doing contour this time. The tool, once again, we'll go to uh, the library, and you can filter, like say none, and then say the first one is the tool, your end mills, say yes, and we'll show you only end mill, and then we pick 1 inch end mill from here, the one here. All right, so that end mill is already here, and in the comment I can say outer shape. Okay. Again, we can just change the tool number to tool number 2, leave the other information as it is for now. Let's move on. The holder, we can skip it. Cut parameter, we'll have to work it through. The first thing, just leave it on computer. The left, yeah, it should be always on the left. If in your case, if it is on right, then change it to left. Leave the tip compensation on the tip. Um, Everything we can just leave it 0. Stock to leave on the wall, because this is our roughing toolpath. We're gonna finish it later, so I will just leave it like 10 thou there. Stock on the floor, we wanted to keep it 0. Okay, and then the next tab is the depth cut. We're gonna turn it on and use 0.1 depth cut for now. We can always change it once you see how the tool behaves on the machine, but at this point let's leave it 0.1. The finish cut, I will just leave it to 0 for now. Next tab, we're gonna go to lead in, lead out. Yeah, make sure it is on here. So I'm gonna just take out the midpoint option here, just check out. We don't want that. And we're gonna use the entry, the straight entry, because it is an outer shape, and I'll just change this to 0 so that we are not using this. And then we copy this information on the other side, on the lead outside, by clicking this arrow. The length, actually we can just keep it a little bit more than the radius of the tool. So we have 1-inch tool, the radius will be 0.5, so I'll just keep it 0.6. Okay, once again copy it, and uh, yeah, so we'll try it with this, and then we can always polish our toolpath a little bit later once we see it on the screen. Next, breakthrough. Yeah, let's turn this on because we're gonna go a little bit more than half. So turn on the breakthrough. I'll put a 0.05 here for breakthrough amount. Multipasses we don't want, so leave those alone, multipasses and tabs. Linking parameters. As you see, this is similar to our facing toolpath, what we already did. So again, we'll just turn on the clearance, retract at 0.25. Let's put it to absolute. Feed, we can change it to 0.1. Also put it to absolute. Top of the stock, and the depth, yeah, make sure, let's put it to absolute. And to select your actual depth, we can use this depth button. So once you press the depth, it's going to ask you how deep you want it to go. So I'll just put this to isometric, and now we're going to go half the way. The reason we don't want to go all the way down is because we're going to be clamping this piece of metal in the vise. So I can show you here. If I go to levels and turn on all, you see that's how it will be clamped in the vise. So if we go all the way through, we're gonna machine the vise. We will just go hit the vise. So we're gonna go somewhere half the way down, and then we'll flip it around, uh, and then do the other half from the other side. Okay, so I'm gonna just pick the midpoint of the hammer. So you see, if I pick the midpoint, it would still be above the vise. Okay, so once I clicked on that midpoint, it just picked up the depth here. All right, if you wanted to, I can show you again. So clicking the depth button, let's take the vise away here. So we are just picking the middle point of the hammer here. Anywhere you can pick. You see it snapping on the midpoint. So once I click it, it picks up the depth automatically there. We can always write the number here. So make sure you're always typing the negative number if our 0 is on the top in this case. So it will be negative 0.562, right? So yeah, so you have both options. If we are working with solid model, we can actually use these buttons to pick up the numbers rather than entering it manually. Alrighty, so once again, I'm going to use the depth button and pick at the middle. There it is, and let's keep going. I think everything else should be fine. The only thing additional you can use is we can turn on the coolant here. In the coolant tab, you can just turn on at the flood. All right, done. There is our toolpath. So once again, going to the toolpath here, let's backplot it. So here's the backplot button, and let's put it to top view, and that's how the tool is gonna go. So it's gonna land 0.6 away from the face, and then go in, go around, come back, and then 0.6 in. You see, this 0.6 going in, we don't really need it. Rather, we should move away from the workpiece. So I'll change that. You'll see what happens. So going into the parameter again, going into lead in, lead out, and the 0.6 here at the lead outside, I would change it from tangent. I would change it to perpendicular, right? And then we can leave it at 0.6, or if you want, we can actually reduce it a little bit. We don't want to go far away, so I can just reduce it to 0.3. Say OK, and then regenerate by, so make sure that toolpath is selected, and we press the regen button. There's the toolpath. So now it's gonna go, so it will land here, and then if I go step by step, you can see it runs around, come back there, and then move away, right? So that will be better toolpath. Okay, and let's put it to isometric. So if I just play it, you can see how it's gonna go. Okay, we can also check if the toolpath is safe. Go to my level, turn on everything, and now if I put it to front view, you can see if the last toolpath or last path is hitting the vise. You can see it is going pretty close, but it is still above the jaw. So if I put the dimension on, we can see that our workpiece must be sticking out of the vise um, at least 0.625, right? So in that case, our tool won't be cutting into the vise. Okay, let's put it to the isometric view. Let's take the vise away. Here is our toolpath. Let's create a finishing toolpath now. As I mentioned before, that this is our roughing. To create a finish toolpath, let's again put this toolpath to sleep. And then I'm going to just right click on this toolpath, copy it, and then just paste it below. So we just copy the contour. I'm going to just change a few things in this toolpath to make it as a finished toolpath. All right, let's go into the parameter. First thing in the tool, we can pick a different tool for finishing. So let's pick a 1/2 inch end mill, and yeah, let's name just renumber it as tool number 3. Uh, and here outer shape, I can say finish outer shape now. Alrighty, and in cut parameters, we're gonna take that away, that tenth away. So let's make it 0. Depth cuts we don't need. We're gonna just go 1 cut. Yeah, lead and lead out, I'll just leave it as it is, the way it has. Breakthrough as well. Uh, linking parameter, we don't need to change anything. It's just as our roughing toolpath. So just say OK and then run it. Right, so let's see how it looks. We'll just turn this on, and here is our toolpath. So as you can see, the finished toolpath is only 1 pass. Right, I can verify 1/2 inch tool going around and done, 1 pass. Before we go ahead, we should verify our work, whatever we have done so far. So for that, we're gonna just set up some stock, some rough stock. So here in our properties, I would go into stock setup, and just let's check the display so that we can see it. Pick the option all solids here below. Actually, if I pick all solids, so it will create a stock as per our solid. There it is. As you can see with the phantom line, it has created a little box around. So if we look around, you can see there's that little stock there. I'm gonna go into the stock again one more time and make it slightly bigger. So in Y, our material, actually we're gonna start with 1.25, and in X it's going to be a little bit bigger than 5 inch, so we'll keep it 5.05. uh, the height is also going to be 1.25. Okay, now if I again look at from the top, you can see it has added a little bit of material on all sides. So that red phantom line is our stock. Okay, so now we should be able to um, verify our toolpaths. So first thing we're gonna do is I would just say select all of them, and then we go in verify. Here is the button escape verify selected operations. This should be more a realistic view of how the tool will be machining. Okay, so it opens up another window. You can actually dock it and take it somewhere else. Again, we can zoom it in, out, and now we can basically play it from here. So while we play, you would see the 3-inch tool faced it, and now it's running around. So the speed can be controlled from here, so you can make it slow or faster. But as you can see, it's machining nicely around. All right, so this way you can verify it and cross-check your operations a little bit more better. If the tool is crashing or if you're going too deep, all the things we can filter it out here. Next, we're gonna machine the other half of the hammer. So we will be basically running the same tool paths from the other side, from the bottom side. So let's see how we do that. So we have these 3 toolpaths. I would just put them to sleep. And then this toolpath group here, I'm gonna just double click it and rename it to top. And then in the machine group one, if we right click here, go into groups, and we will create a new machine group, which is going to be again another mill. We just keep the defaults and it would put another group there. So this group I would rename it to bottom. Now I'm going to just copy these three toolpaths. Okay, click first one, press shift button on your keyboard, press last, right click, copy, and then here at the arrow, right click, paste. So we have just copy pasted those three operations in the next group. We're going to quickly change those operations to the to bottom operations. So we'll go in parameters of each of them, and then go into planes and see how it shows on the top. By clicking this window, I would change it to bottom. Say OK. Change tool plane to bottom as well, and WCS to bottom as well, and say OK. We're going to do the same thing with all three of them. Going to the plane, bottom, and bottom. Okay, so similarly you do the other operation as well. Okay, so I have changed all of them. As you see now, they are not good toolpaths anymore. They are showing that we need to regenerate them. So what we're going to do is going here in C plane below in the screen here, we would change it to bottom as well, and so is our T plane and WCS plane. Change it to bottom. Okay, so now if I right click on the screen and press isometric, it would change it, flip it to other side, so upside down, so that now we can create those toolpaths here at the bottom side. Lastly, we're gonna just update the geometry in these three toolpaths. So I would go in geometry tab here and right click here and say rechain all. Okay. Now once again we would go to the top view so that we can see it better. And remember, we're going to pick the chain in a way that we are going clockwise. So I will click it here. Green arrow should be going clockwise. All right, say OK. And OK here. So similarly, we would do all three operations. Let's do the second one. Click on geometry. Right click here in the window. Say rechain all. And click somewhere here. Green arrow going clockwise. Say OK. So I would do the third operation similarly. All three chains have been picked up. So let's move back to isometric. And we're going to select those three operations and regenerate them. To select three, we're going to press first one, press shift on the keyboard and press the last one. And then regenerate button here. Okay, all three are regenerated. Let's just bring it on the screen. So we can see the toolpaths are generated, but the depths are wrong because it is still machining at the bottom side here, looks like. So we should be machining from the top, which is actually the bottom. To fix this, we would have to change our parameters in the toolpath. So let's go ahead. The first one, the facing toolpath, we would go to linking parameter and move the clearance to 3 inches. So remember now our Z0 is in the bottom of the block. So you're going to retract to 1.375, feed plane I keep it to 1.225. Top of stock. So top of stock now is here. So that will be 1.125. And the depth for face is gonna be the same. So we wanted to actually face it to this. All right. So that's facing, and the next is the contour roughing. Again, we'll change it to 3, retract to 1.375, feed 1.225, top of the stock again 1.125, and the depth is going to be 0.562, but this time it will be positive value. Remember, we are going bottom up. So say OK, and the last one, same thing, 3" 1.375, feed 1.225, and top of the stock is here, and the depth is at the midpoint. Should pick it up from there. So 0.562 positive value. Okay, say OK, and we're gonna regenerate those three. So selected all three, and then say regenerate. Okay, so as you can see now, they are running at the proper level. Let's turn them all on. So I would select all and then turn on, and now you can see they are, the whole length is machined, half from the top, half from the bottom. Okay, let's try to verify it. So we're gonna go to top and isometric. Okay, so we changed our C-plane, T-plane, and WCS to the top, turned on the stock from the stock tab here, and yeah, make sure its display is checked. And once the stock is on, we're gonna just select all the toolpaths. So all the toolpaths are selected, turn them on. Here we can see them. So let's verify them. Here is our verify screen. So we're gonna just play it and see how it goes. So the facing and the machining around from the top side. And then finish pass at the end. And now I should do the bottom part. Okay. Facing and roughing. Okay, it's complete. Let's save our work and practice the bottom tool parts. Another toolpath we're going to practice is the chamfer toolpath to create that chamfer around on the top and on the bottom. We are going to add that toolpath here in the top. So you see where the arrow is, we can move that arrow up or down to these arrow buttons here. So if I press that, it will go down. So we're going to add after toolpath number 3 right here. So once here, we'll go in the toolpath selection and pick contour again. uh, we're gonna basically be picking the same contour what we did before. Same principle. So the green arrow should be going clockwise. Okay. From the tool library, we'll pick up a chamfer tool. Again, let's use the filter. And we want the chamfer mill, so I'll turn that on and turn off the end mill. Say OK. Let's grab a 1/2 inch chamfer mill. We can give it tool number 4. Here I can say top chamfer. Cut parameters. So here is what is different now. So in the toolpath type, we're gonna select 2D chamfer. So the minute we select that, that image appears here. So we're gonna give actually the offset amount and the chamfer amount here. So the offset amount, we can keep it to minimum. I would keep it to 0.05, and the chamfer, we know that the chamfer on our model is 0.031. Okay, everything else we'll just keep it to 0. Depth cuts we don't need. Lead in, lead out. We can use the same information, the default information from there. Breakthrough, make sure we turn it off. It is turned on from the last operation. And the linking parameters, we're gonna just again, this depth, we should keep it to 0 actually, because we have given the depth through our chamfer parameters. Yeah, they're all on absolute, so all good to go. See, okay. Okay, let's try that. Let's see how it looks in isometric view. We're gonna backplot that. There is chamfer tool, and if I see from the front view, we can see it better, and you can see it. It's creating just that 31.031 chamfer around there. Okay, so again, going to isometric view. Let's run it. It's gonna go around like that, come back. Okay, we're gonna just give it one pass. All right, let's have a look how it looks like in the verify mode. So I'm gonna just turn on these 4 operations and then verify them. There. So we can see the chamfer clearly now around. Looks good. So I would do the same thing what we did before, that copy the same toolpath to the bottom side and change the parameters to have a chamfer on the bottom side as well. All right, follow along. So I'll just close that window and get this toolpath, the chamfer, right click, copy, go below, and I'm going to take that arrow down. At the end, we would copy, we'll paste that toolpath here. Okay, so the chamfer toolpath is copied here, and we will go in parameters and change it to the bottom side. So remember, we went to planes, and switch to bottom. We're going to do that same thing to all three. Okay, all done. Say OK. Once again, we'll reselect geometry. Say rechain and to top view. And remember, we're going to go clockwise. Say OK. Done. And the last thing, we're going to change the parameters. In linking parameters, clearance, we're going to change it to 3 inches like before. This will be 1.375, 1.225. Top is gonna be 1.125, and depth is also will be 1.125 because the depth is again coming from our chamfer parameters here. Okay. Alrighty, let's regenerate. And we should have our bottom chamfer as well. So if I go to isometric view and backplot that, all right, backplot is as you can see at the bottom, it's creating the toolpath for chamfer. Okay, that completes our top and bottom milling and chamfer toolpaths. To finish this part, we can create a toolpath to drill and mill that slot from the back side here. Okay. So we'll create another toolpath group, another mill group, but this time we're going to call it the back side. Let's rename it back. We'll change our construction plane and tool plane as well as WCS to back. That should refresh our view to the back side. There. So the first thing we're going to do is drill a hole at the center of the slot. To find the center, we're going to basically do a little construction there. So I'm going to just draw a line across the slot. So let's set our Z to here, and then I'll just go to wireframe, create a line from the midpoint here to the midpoint there. Say OK. So we're going to basically drill a hole at the midpoint of that line we just created. Right, let's go ahead, go to toolpath. I'm going to pick drill this time, and the drill point would be the center of that line. So I'm going to just try getting there. Just pick that point, say OK. Now in the tool, select the library again, This time we're going to pick a center drill. So we'll basically a center drill and then drill. Find a center drill next to it. And grab let's grab a number 4 center drill. Alrighty, you can say spot. Again, cutting parameter, we would just leave it at drill and countersink. Linking parameter is the only thing. Okay, let's leave the clearance of retract this reading to 0, at least retract to 0.5, but we wanted to have it absolute. And depth of the stock, so depth you're gonna give it minus 0.15. Tip compensation, just leave it off for now. You can turn on the coolant. Okay, so there's our center drill toolpath. Next, we're gonna drill a through hole. We're gonna drill a 1/2 inch hole. So I would just copy paste the same toolpath, the center drill, and then we'll change it to drill. So copy and paste. There it is. Now let's go to tool again, and this time we're gonna grab a 1/2 inch drill. Drills are here. Let's turn off the center drill. Let's go to 1/2 inch drill. 1/2 inch drill is here. Find that, and I would actually just update to drill. And once again, the only thing, well, here the drill we can change it to this time pack drill, so that way it would pack it down with 0.1. Linking parameter is the only thing we would change. So this time the depth, we're gonna go all the way through. So I would just pick it there. Yeah, negative 1.125, but we wanted to drill through, so we would add a tip compensation this time. So I will add like 0.03 there. Okay, other thing again, coolant is on already, and we done. Okay, let's just regenerate that. Try to backplot that. There's our drill, and it should go. See, it's packing. So if I just run it, it should go all the way through. There. All right, drill is done. Okay, next we're gonna mill that slot. So let's zoom it in. We're gonna go to contour toolpath. Use that first edges option. This time we're gonna pick that internal edge. So once again, zoom it in. Remember, we don't want to pick the angle, rather we want to pick the straight slot. And this time we're gonna, our chain should be in a way that the arrow is going counterclockwise. Okay, so that's important because this is internal chain, so arrow should be going counterclockwise. And we're gonna say okay. In the tool type, let's go to filter once again. and we would pick one of the end mill this time. So make sure the end mill is on and okay. So there's end mill. So let's grab a 1/2 inch end mill from there, and we can change the tool number this time to tool number 5. Cut parameters. That's where we're gonna basically deal it with a little bit differently. So this 2D contour, we're gonna change it to ramp. This time we're gonna change it to ramp. So the tool will be basically ramping down. So here I would change it to depth option, and each time the tool goes around, we would loop it down to 0.03. Make pass at the final depth, so that will kind of clean it out at the end. So let's keep that on. Yeah, leave everything to 0. um, Depth cuts, we're not going to need it because we are ramping it. Turn this to 0, and here we're going to keep it at 0.5, but we'll sweep it only 30, and then copy it to the other side. Okay, breakthrough, yes, we're going to need that again because we're going to machine it through. So 0.3. Multipass, we don't need. Linking parameters, this time we'll put the clearance on absolute. Feed plane absolute again at 0.1. Top of the stock is this here. uh, Actually we wanted to start a little bit in the air, so I would just give like 0.02 there. And the depth we're gonna go through, we can pick this lower edge here, that one. Oh, it should be absolute once again there, so it's 1.125. All right, everything looks good. Just say okay, and ooh, look at that, the toolpath going really deep. So something went wrong in the depth. Okay, let's look through what has happened in the parameters. Okay, yeah, see in the breakthrough, I was trying to write 0.03, but by mistake, I gave it 3 inches, so it's going through basically 3 inches. So let's change it to 0.03. I think that's what was bugging it, and yeah, so now it looks fine, just going through. Okay, let's try to verify it or backplot it. Okay, so that's how it's gonna machine. It's basically ramping down. Okay, looks good. All right, so let's put those tool paths to sleep. And the last thing we need to create now is a toolpath for that angle or shallow chamfer there. For that, we're gonna just actually copy this last contour toolpath and paste it below, and then we're gonna change it to the toolpath which we would be using it for taper. So while we go in the, yeah, we're gonna just turn off breakthrough this time. So when we go to tool, this time we won't be able to find that exact tool because we need a 7-degree angle. So what we would do is here in the window, right click, and we're going to create a tool this time. Okay, the creating tool, first we're going to select what kind of tool we wanted to create. So it's going to be a taper mill. and say next. It would ask what is the tip diameter. So we would just enter 1/4 inch. The angle is gonna be 7 degrees. The cutting length, don't want really that long, so I would just change it to 0.7. Shoulder length doesn't have to be that long. We could actually keep it 0.7. Overall length, again, let's keep it 3 inches. Now the shank diameter, we can actually change it to 1/2 inch. Okay, that's about the numbers, and here's the tool number. We would give it to tool number 5, and the name we can change it, or we can just leave it what is in there, and the cutting speed and stuff. Let's just leave it. I would just say finish. So we have our 1/2 inch taper tool there. So in the comment we can write down the taper. Let's go to cut parameters. Here we'll keep it at 2D. Left stock to leave on the wall. Let's leave it 10 thou because we wanted to keep the tool 10 thou away so that we can go deeper. Depth cut we don't need. Lead in, lead out, we will just keep it as it is. Linking parameters. The depth is picked up from the taper depth actually here. That's at 0.25, but we wanted to go a little bit deeper, so that's why it's 0.25. So let's add 50 thou in. So we go to 0.3 negative. All right, I guess that's all we need to enter. Say OK, and let's see how it looks. Say backplot. Tool coming down and following the taper. Now, if we wanted to see it better, we can actually, while the tool here, we can try looking it from the side view. Side like that, somewhere there. And from the view window, would go to and turn on, go to wireframe. So that way we can see it if it's following the taper properly. You see the tool is following the same angle. Okay, that brings us to the end of this lesson. Please follow these directions, follow step-by-step video, and try to complete your program. Thanks for watching.